Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters, and other Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies. Bunch of funny things today, a lot of memes I want to get to, and just some other funny stuff. More funny stuff than usual. Anyways, let's start with this. Maybe not as funny. Big Bang Theory star reveals lung cancer diagnosis. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. It must be something else, right? Must be something else that you did.
This is not a TikTok. It's a sick talk.
Oh, she was in that other show with can't remember the name of it.
I'm in the hospital, but it's because I had lung cancer surgery yesterday. They caught it really early. It's pretty weird because I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. So,
Did you get anything else, baby? That's a little controversial. Like the whoop.
uh, it was a surprise, but also I guess it happens. And so,
Yeah, it happens a lot now. Lots of surprise cancers, a lot of surprise cardiac arrests. Surprise!
the greatest news is they caught it early. They got it out. I'm all good.
Well, the greatest news is not getting it at all.
But it's been a little bit of a trip.
Yeah, it is. This was funny here.
Remember, Ron, you are normal. You are not weird. You are 5'11". Your suit is soft, and your shoes are grown-up big boy shoes. That's it. Pretend you're listening to music, human music. Good. Check the phone. Normal style. Activate conversation mode. Hello, you're busy. Okay, love you. Bye. F***ity fuck. Come on, Ron, be normal. You are not a bobblehead with a dry mouth. You are a big boy with a wet mouth. Activate head turn. Activate toothless smile. Good, very good. Activate hand gesture. Good, that's better. Remember, you are a Ron DeSantis. You aren't just normal. You're also totally not weird.
That was wonderful. Someone did a great job with that. FBI issues warning for South Texas communities on cross-border kidnappings.
Report kidnappings immediately. That's a warning from the FBI for people traveling abroad this Christmas. That warning specifically for South Texas communities. Channel 5's Christian Von Pricing is live at the Hidalgo Bridge with more. Christian.
We're getting into the season where thousands of families are heading into Mexico to see their families across the border. That warning that came out from the FBI was not specifically across the country. It was specifically for the FBI field office of San Antonio. That includes Del Rio, Laredo, and the Rio Grande Valley.
Okay, so if you're in San Antonio, look out for kidnappings. Erie journalist Emily Matson passes away. She isn't Erie. She's from the Erie, Pennsylvania area, somewhere in Erie, Pennsylvania.
The news community in Erie is saddened tonight to learn of the death of our colleague Emily Matson. Matson was an anchor and award-winning reporter with WICU for nearly 20 years. Honored twice by the Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters. She interned here at Jet 24 back in the early 2000s. We offer our sincere...
Okay, she was hit by a train. Turbo train. I'm not laughing at her death, but Raven Simone announces her brother Blaze Pierman died from colon cancer, another turbo cancer. John Stamos breaks silence on death of his friend Beach Boys member Jeffrey Fawcett, who also died of cancer at 67, possibly turbo cancer. Controversial YouTube star Shane Dawson and husband Ryland Adams welcome twin sons via surrogate. Why'd they use a surrogate? So this is kind of funny.
Excuse me, what would you rate me out of 10? Oh, okay.
So that's a 0. So you would count that as a 0. Was driving behind Kadarius Toney this morning. See his this is to do with that thing that happened with the Kansas City Chiefs, where the guy was offsides and he's way past the line here. Still can't believe this offsides. Chiefs got screwed. Looks totally fine to me. Here's the guy offsides. There's the ball. He has to be behind this line here. He's supposed to be over on this side, so that's another clever meme. The funniest part of the entire situation, the Chiefs crying that offsides penalty should have been called, is that also should have been illegal formation penalty called as well. So this guy's too far off the line over here. So that guy was off the line there, but this guy was too far behind the line. He's supposed to be up on the line. So they had multiple penalties. NBA fans blast Doris Burke and Doc Rivers for making my ears bleed as the brand's ESPN's decision to lay off old Booth with Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy a tragedy. Now, this is something I've talked about for a while. And during the NBA in-season tournament, these two guys, Jeff, what's his name? Whatever, Breen, his last name is Breen, Mike Breen, and Doris Burke was joined by Reggie Miller, who is a famous basketball player and, ex-basketball player, and he's an announcer for TNT. And they had this crossover, and then he talked about, because Mark Jackson was his former teammate, and he talked about this guy, Mike Breen, working with them for years and was ribbing them, and it was really uncomfortable, right? Because Doris Burke and Doc Rivers are horrible. And she was a lot better with Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller was, sort of carried the way. You could see the difference. And then this guy, Doc Rivers, was with some other crew, and he wasn't as bad. But together, they're both horrible. If they have someone else who can carry, but when they both suck, right? And this is so obvious to anybody watching basketball and seeing the difference. It's a huge fall off. It's like going from an 8 or a 9 to like a 2. Merry Christmas from the Solos. This is that actor who was called ugly by Chris Wallace. And these are, this is a couple that should have never been. And I want to talk about, I'm going to talk a little bit of the new Raiders of the Lost Ark at the end of this thing, because that's interesting. I just watched that. But this is that kid, and there's no way. the Solos. Watching people I know smoke the devil's lettuce after we signed a DARE pledge in 6th grade. You watch movies for entertainment. I watch movies to decode messages. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this with the Raiders of the Lost Ark. But I used to watch movies and TV shows to decode messages. And now it's more of a sort of a Renaissance nostalgia thing. I want to talk about that as we go through this first. Now, this was wonderful. Usually I don't like this kind of thing. Someone sent it to me, and I was like, oh, is this another crappy Trump impersonation? But this one's well done.
It's Christmas, and I'm not afraid to say it, folks. It's Christmas, isn't it? So many great things. Santa, Home Alone 2, the best one. And
I was almost ready to turn it off because that all kind of sucked.
baby Jesus, but not the parents. Joseph and Mary, not great. Not the kind of people you want coming to Bethlehem. They're illegals crossing the border to have an anchor baby. Nowhere to stay, not even his baby. It's a disaster. And everyone says the innkeeper was a terrible guy because he didn't give him a room. But I think, and a lot of people are saying this, the top people, quite frankly, that he's the true hero of Christmas. He really is. He has an inn, peak holiday season. It's very full. It's very booked. And I've owned some very successful hotels, the biggest. And I know what it's like. And let me tell you, these people, they come in. And Joseph, not a very good carpenter from what I'm hearing. And his wife, the Virgin Mary, not that hot, let's be honest. Maybe a 6, a Bethlehem 9, they call it.
Bethlehem 9. It's funny. I had this one before the thing that was just sent to me about that girl asking to be rated.
They come in there pregnant, looking for a place to stay, and everybody says he's a bad innkeeper because he had no room. But what does he do? Peak season, he says, you can stay in the manger, size of a junior suite, very warm from the animals. And he's risking a health violation, to be honest, but he's a tremendous guy. So this year, let's remember the innkeepers who kept the inns. They say keep Christ in Christmas, but let's keep the in Christmas, keep Christ in Christmas. And And at Mar-a-Lago this holiday season, if you're pregnant and it's not your partner's child, you can stay one night in a junior suite for the price of a deluxe king. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. I said it, I really did.
So that was well done. So I watched this movie, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and it was horrible. Spoiler alert, and I don't know why, anybody needs to suffer through this horrible movie. But this is the other lead character here. Her dad, I want to see a picture of this guy. He's a short, sort of plump English actor. He's in a lot of films. And let me just talk about the film here. I'm going to switch over to the voiceover. There's this kid here. This is the Dial of Destiny here. This is Miriam, who was formerly Jailbait in the first one. And I'll cover all that there. There's the big Dial of Destiny. Okay, before I get into the Indiana Jones thing, this idea about decoding messages, right? So when it says, the meme that said, you watch movies for entertainment and I watch movies to decode messages. The thing is that none of this stuff matters anymore. We've reached the point where, and I've talked about this 2-3 years ago. I mean, we're far past this point. The idea of waking everybody up and changing things, that ship has sailed. Not only is it's not impossible, but you could wake everybody up isn't going to change a thing. There's no reversing the economic debt. There's no reversing the moral decay. There's no reversing the payment that we collectively own for going away from God and our soul's path and deviating from the divine laws. I mean, there's things that have to be accounted for. There's things that have to be, consequenced. And the only thing that waking everybody up will do is bring the system down faster. I mean, the only outcome that will come out of people being aware of the demonic nature of our system and everything else is the system collapsing. It isn't that the system could be fixed, none of these things. I've talked about this so much. And it's literally a rabbit hole because you go down this rabbit hole trying to figure out all the secret communication and all the, unresolved issues, all the unresolved information that's out there and the truth within the lies, like trying to find the truth within the lies. It just doesn't work, right? You have to search for the truth. You don't find the truth by looking into the lies and looking into the liars. The liars and the lies themselves are a diversion from the truth, right? It keeps you from pursuing the divinity within you and your soul's path and getting down to what's really important. People go on these wild goose chases, and I used to do that as well. And what difference does it make? Yeah, they put symbols in movies. They put hidden whatever it is. My wife and I are watching this stuff, and one of us will see something, we'll point it out, but it's not, and I'll talk about these things at TV shows and movies, the stuff that's in there, but it's not really, it doesn't serve a purpose for me, right? There's no reason to break down all these things and see through the illusion. I mean, they're being lied to all the time. It's just, it's how much it affects you or not and how much you, engage with it that's important. I saw this meme and I didn't think much of it at first, and then I started to have these thoughts, so I went back to look for it. And, my Facebook feed now is like sports, like things that I haven't subscribed to or liked. Entertainment stuff, celebrity stuff. I don't even know where it came from. And the things my friends post, it's like one friend post to 10 things that are some sort of like news feed or whatever. I used to have a lot of Sahaj Marg, Heartfulness friends from my meditation. And most of them I got rid of because of their, they're still believing the dodgy BS. And then, I had truther friends who no longer post on Facebook because they were constantly being put in Facebook jail. And so I ended up seeing that there was a button, like a feed button, on the side of the Facebook menu bar. Because I was looking for this meme and it was just all this other stuff, right? And now Facebook takes you back to the beginning. And so, I don't go on Facebook that much. And every time I go on, it's like they changed the thing, right? And so I clicked the feed button and then I clicked the part that said friends only. and I was able to scroll down and find this, this meme that one of my friends posted, someone who I didn't even recognize, right? And I noticed that it was only like when I scrolled through the Facebook feed, there wasn't really much truther stuff anymore. In fact, none at all. A lot of these people were truther friends, people who sent me a friend request based on being, from my channel. And they're not able to post truther stuff anymore. And it was the same 10 people posting. I'm like, nobody posts on Facebook anymore because I'm not seeing friends post, on Facebook because they're not. Like, people have abandoned it. So they filled it up with all this other stuff, right? All this other like paid content. It's just, and none of it matters, right? It doesn't matter. Facebook isn't stopping the truth from coming out. I mean, it's just, the whole idea that we're doing something in the truth community is ridiculous, right? If it prepares you for what's going to happen, fine. If you're able to connect to God internally, even better, right? There's things that you can do personally, but the system's not going to be saved, and you're not going to, wake up to such an extent you're going to see through the BS. There's no truth or enlightenment, right? When I watch TV and movies now, it's just something for me that's nostalgic. Like, it's something familiar. My wife and I watch, some stuff at night. We take TV naps, as we call it, and some of the stuff is entertaining, some of it's good, some of it is, kind of we make fun of it or whatever, depending on what we're watching, and we point out things. But it's done out of a sense of relaxing and doing something that's familiar, and that's not going to be around for much longer. Like, there'll be something in the future where all this will be, just relics of the past, right? People will have, a bicycle where they'll charge their electricity for a little bit so they can put in an old DVD or VHS they found in some, like, some post-apocalyptic raid or whatever, and. But the content and the entertainment, the information that's available now, and all these different streaming services and all these things, it's going to reach a peak point, and then it's going to disappear like altogether, right? So on that note, I watched the most recent Indiana Jones movie, and it was so laughable and bad in so many ways, right? And it was bad in the sense of it wasn't really, there's not much plot in these movies, and the action sequences are whatever they are, but they're kind of outdated. Harrison Ford is like 90 years old. He's trying to fight people, and it's just, they have this rule that whoever punches somebody has knockout power, like, whether it's Harrison Ford or the woman who is his goddaughter that came out of nowhere, right? In this movie. Spoiler alert, I'm going to say everything that, I mean, there's not really much of a plot to give away. But they have a template. Like, there was a scene where him and this girl are walking through a cave, and inexplicably there are all these giant bugs. There's always a snake thing or a bug thing like this. It happens in every one of the movies, right? They have these, things that you expect to happen. It's just redoing the first movie in a way that's, the first movie came out in 1981. I was a junior in high school, and everyone in my high school loved it. I mean, it was kind of cutting edge type of fight scenes, and, it was an epic, big budget movie. And for its time, and being a younger person, it was kind of great. But, as the years went by, the movie started to suck. And, more recently it came out that Marion, the character, his romantic lead, he was supposed to be 25 years old when he started to date her, and she was 15. And this was confirmed by George Lucas that they wanted to be a little bit controversial. So it made Indiana Jones a pedo. And Marion shows back up in this movie at the end in some, way to just, like, make this thing go full circle in a bad way. But it starts off with Nazis, and of course it does, because of everything that's going on in the world. And, they brought back the Nazis. And there's a Nazi who realizes they're looking for the blade that pierced Jesus' heart, which is supposedly something that Hitler had in his possession, right? And they're searching for it. It turns out to be a fake, but this guy, this Nazi scientist who later goes on to come to America and help the NASA get to the moon, allegedly, right? And he finds out that there's this Archimedes, whatever it is, this dial that can that can send you back in time, or you can time travel and find these holes in time to get through, right? And so, it starts off with Harrison Ford talking about Archimedes, right? And, it's like this 5-minute segment in all these movies where they remind you that this guy's an archaeologist and a professor, right? But there's just, there's like a kid in the movie, and they have these kids, and the kid is in a bar, and he's got this makeshift, plane controls that he has, and he's talking to some pilots, and they're teaching him how to, he's simulating flying a plane. I'm like, okay, kid's gonna fly a plane. Later in the movie, it's like that kind of stuff, right? Like as you get older, you've seen these things, and you're a pattern recognition person. You see that they're planting the seeds for something else to happen later on, right? And there's this sort of short, bald, kind of chubby British actor who just shows up, and he's Indiana Jones' long-term friend, and he and Indiana Jones have a fascination with Archimedes and this dial, and they get half the dial because Archimedes split it up, and they have to get the other part because they have to, because it's a freaking video game and they need some kind of journey to go on, right? And the guy has a daughter who's, again, you haven't seen before, but somehow is Indiana Jones's goddaughter, and they have sort of a contentious relationship, and she's a real scumbag, and they go on this adventure to find the dial, and he just burns through these friends, right? Harrison Ford's a very unlikable person. He's a real a-hole. He's arrogant, and he's not smart, or he doesn't have any redeeming qualities. And he's the same character in all these movies, whether he plays as a president in that whatever those movies are, or he plays Han Solo or Indiana Jones. It's the same character, same personality. And he has these friends that show up. In this case, it's Antonio Banderas, who used to be a leading man in movies, but now he's relegated to be basically an extra. And he has a boat. He has like 3 lines. And he has a boat, and they go diving looking for the other dial. And, he's got friends who just drop everything like a typical NPC and bring him out and supply him with scuba gear. And, they don't have anything else going on in their lives. And the Nazis show up and waste all of them, including Antonio Banderas. And the girl celebrates her getting away, and Harrison Ford goes, I just lost a friend. I'm like, why does this guy even have friends? Like, how does this guy even have friends? He's an a-hole, and pretty much every friend he gets involved with dies. Like, now in 6 or 7 movies that he's been in, or whatever it is. So the Nazis are looking for this dial, and they steal the dial from Harrison Ford, who finds it, and, all these things happen, and caves, and, all this stuff. And he activates the dial because he wants to go back to sometime in, the World War II, and he wants to murder Hitler because he blames Hitler for losing the war, which he established when he was talking to an African-American waiter or bellman in a hotel, right? Because this guy's being celebrated. It's in the 60s, and they're celebrating the moon landing, and there's all this parade and all this 60s stuff going on. It's just, it's just they're trying to establish a mood and a period piece, but it just fails on every level, right? So this Nazi wants to go back and kill Hitler because he believes Hitler was the reason they lost World War II, that Hitler was a screw-up. And they don't go back to that period of time. Archimedes built the dial so people of the future would come back and help him in the Battle of Syracuse, and Indiana Jones doesn't want to leave because he's a history buff and archaeologist. And he's like, I'm in history. I just want to stay here. He's been gunshot because, of course, he has. And like a guy who really just goes around destroying history. There's so much NPC stuff where they had this parade for the moon, for the astronauts in the moon landing. And he's riding through the parade in a horse, and there's a Nazi chasing him on a motorcycle, and they're just shooting people left and right. With no regard to private property. They just steal people's cars and wreck people's boats. I mean, Antonio Banderas, his whole crew gets killed. He gets killed, and they blow up his boat because Indiana Jones is a real quality friend, right? And so he gets dragged back by this girl who has superhuman strength and is knocking people out, even though she's, probably weighs like 130 pounds. And he comes to back in, in his time period in his apartment in like New York City or wherever the hell he is, right? And Marion shows up, the girl that he deflowered when she was 15 years old. And they, relive this moment in the first movie where he says everything hurts and she starts kissing all the things that don't hurt. And that's how they end the movie. And I'm like, that was horrible. Like it was just, it was it was an insult to everything. It's cinematography and archaeology and pretty much everything that they covered in the movie. And there's plenty of symbolism, Illuminati stuff. There's all that stuff in there. But it doesn't matter. Who cares, right? It doesn't matter. It all sucks, right? I mean, there isn't much redeeming quality things that our culture has produced. We have, cell phones. We have good technological devices. We have conveniences. We have, comforts. We have, but most of it is just wasting time. Like how much have you seen in terms of watching TV? How much time have you think you've wasted your life watching TV or movies or whatever it might be? I mean, just going to parties and, doing things, partying when you were in your youth and spending all your youthful energy in, decadent behavior. I mean, whatever it is, right? Like all that time and energy that people just waste. And we have free time where people would be in villages or be in tribal situations and they'd be working and, they'd be, doing so much just to survive. And because of our modern day system, we have the gift of free time and we've just turned it into an absolute mess, right? That's the real crime. And now we have the, people wasting their time trying to decode everything, the whole QB stuff and decoding Q's messages and going on these wild goose traces and trying to solve the mysteries of life. And there are none, right? I mean, it's just the system sucks. We're going in the wrong direction. And mercifully, it's coming to an end. And then hopefully we'll get back on track in some future life. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely born for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.